Woo, it says I'm live. Does that mean I have audio? I don't know if I have audio. It says I'm making noise, which is better than previous years. Although it did take me, I did the whole thing by myself this time. I didn't pre-set up anything. But I think I figured out how to do it. How's it look? I've never set up a backdrop for podcast live video before. Should I change anything? Nobody can hear me because nobody's here. I'm gonna wait for somebody. I can always edit at the top, but that I don't know how to do. So I might have to learn how to do something to this. It's really echoey in this room, so I don't know how good this microphone's going to be at me. This room is not designed for recording in. I'm at, can you hear me? Hello, somebody. Oh, it doesn't tell me who. Ha! Yes, you can hear me. How bad is the audio in this room? I decided to isolate myself a little bit this year. Not bad, it sounds fine. Good. I forget how big the delay is between when you type something and then when I see it, and then the delay between when I say something and when you hear it. So it stacks up. As my backdrop, I feel like I need to move these guys that way. That's better. That's cozier. I like that. It's cooch. All right, let's go get some other people. But in the meantime, I will look at my notes. And then I'm going to start with, after doing the Poe Project for, we had a dinner party in 2011 for the Poe Project. And then we went to a few Poe Project events that were being run around Grand Junction. And then we started doing Poe Project events that were happening in Grand Junction. Turns out I don't actually know that much about Edgar Allan Poe. Things like, I've been going through trivia, tons of stuff I didn't know. I've actually done trivia. I've dressed up as Edgar Allan Poe and sat on Main Street and asked people questions and said things like, what do you know, different things like how much did he sell the Raven for? And what was his family? What did his family do? And I don't know where I got these trivia questions, but we've been doing trivia, Poe trivia for years, and I've just kind of recycled the same stuff. So it's kind of like I know this one category of thing. So I was looking up some trivia for this zine that I made that you can get. I have them here. Nope. Aha, here. If you want some. I have some zines from last year too. And then some tiny zines. When they're all fundraisers for the Poe Project. We don't spend a lot of money here, but we do spend some, and so we like to recoup some of those costs. All of our events are free or donation to other causes. So, but in this, I wanted to put some trivia. And so I came up with some very interesting trivia bits that I didn't know. And there was a lot more that I came across that I didn't know. And then there's this website that's like Edgar Allan Poe's scholarly website with all of these really scholarly essays, and people have been studying him for years. I don't I don't know any of it. I'm just an amateur who likes putting on events, and it's been really fun to find out how much I don't know. And now I'm like, my mission is to do more Poe studies, which is weird, but I'm highly motivated to do that. So I started with this crossword puzzle that I picked up for this. It's a whole short story that I don't know anything about. It's called William Wilson. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that before. There's like all these questions, like who did he kill and stuff like that. I mean, of course he killed somebody because it's a Poe story. Gothic setting of early conflicts. I don't know what that is. I do have the answer key somewhere, so like if I get really stumped, then I have that. But yeah, in all these years we've been kind of doing the same stuff. So this crossword puzzle, I decided to put it in there, and then I'm like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to talk about it on my podcast. So that's what I did. So his story. First thing I did was I pulled up his story, and it opens with a quote, which I think is not all that uncommon, but I always like to look that up. So the first thing I did before I read the story was go look up the quote. And the quote is from Chamberlain's Faranita. Now, I Googled Faranita, and I found out it's a horseshoe worm. It's a marine animal. It kind of lives in a coral-esque kind of manner, but yeah, it's a worm that lives under the ocean, and they're about 2 centimeters long and about a centimeter and a half wide. And apparently the largest are 50 centimeters long, which is half a meter. That's a long worm for something that's usually 2 centimeters. But anyway, I've never heard of it. And that's what the Faranita is. It's a type of worm. So what is Chamberlain's Faranita? Because, after I got stuck in this wormhole, which is similar to a rabbit hole, I realized that I had an actual goal that I was trying to look up. So I looked up Chamberlain's Faranita, and turns out it is a heroic poem by William Chamberlain of Shaftesbury in the country Dorset. Sounds very British. And so I found it on the University of Michigan website, and I'm like, heck yeah, I got this. I'm going to read this poem so I know where this quote came from. Well, guess what? It is long. And by long, I mean it is 5 books of 5 cantos each, and each canto is many pages long. I did not look up what a canto was because there has to be a limit to burrows that you make when you are doing rabbit holes, and that was one. So I don't know if a canto is normally a certain number of lines long. That sounds like something that it could be. So I'm scrolling through this, and it's just massive. It just goes on and on. There's no way I'm going to find this one line that Poe used at the beginning of William Wilson in this poem. I'll read it later. Also, I looked up who is Chamberlain himself, and Chamberlain is he was born in 1679. So not only is this thing massive, but it's also in an English I don't read. Poe is almost in English I don't read, but the Chamberlain it's not. But guess what happened when I opened up the poem and scrolled through it? I went back to the top, and I'm gonna maybe I'll just read the beginning of it. It starts out with a quote. No, a letter. Comes out with a letter or a dedication to the rightful, worshipful Sir William Portman, Baronet, dated May 12th, 1659. Who is this guy? And why are we dedicating a heroic poem to the man? The answer is that he was an English politician who sat in the House of Commons from 1661 to 1690. So this letter was written to him before he was on the House of Commons. The language in the Wikipedia article for this guy is outrageously pompous, like it's totally crazy. This line, Portman married 3 times but died without issue, and the baronetcy became extinct. Wikipedia page from 2025 sounds like this. And I wasn't going to read the whole thing to find out why we were writing a letter to this man. In the letter, he did mention something about worms and glowing. So I think that may be an association, and maybe this baron was some sort of biologist. At least he might care about glowing worms. At least Chamberlain seemed to think so. So anyway, fishing myself out of the Baron wormhole and back to the Chamberlain wormhole. So he's a poet, and his Wikipedia article is so short, I'll read you the whole thing. He was an English poet. Nothing is known of his history except that he practiced as a physician at Shaftesbury and Dorset and fought on the royalist side at the Second Battle of Newbury. Newbury. So his works are Farinida, a verse romance in 5 books. Has something to do with glowing worms, maybe. Love's Victory, the year before, a tragicomedy acted under another title at the 1678 Theatre Royal. So he's a playwright too. England's Jubilee, the year after our romantic poem that sent me down this wormhole, a poem in honor of the Restoration. English Jubilee, 1660, a poem in honor of the Restoration. So a little bit political, a little bit of a playwright, a little bit of a poet. A prose version of the Farinida entitled Eremina or the Noble Stranger appeared in 1683. In 1677, his play, another play, Wits Led by the Nose, a comedy, was staged at the Theatre Royal, so that would probably be Love's Victory, same name. At the King's Company, Robert Sotheb's, I did not click on this to find out more. Wormholes have to have, burrows have to have direction, limits. Speaks of him as a poet to whom I am indebted for many hours of delight. That just reinforced me not reading this poem right now. I didn't have many hours to read it. Farinida was reprinted by S.W. Singer in 1820 and again in 1905 by George Saintsbury in Minor Poets of the Caroline Period, Volume 1. The poem is loose in construction, but contains some passages of great beauty. All right, so maybe a cantos does not have a certain number of lines. That's the whole thing. That's the whole Wikipedia article, everything. I have read it to you with interjections because apparently I can't just read something straight. So finally I got around to reading William Wilson. William Wilson. So discussion. The version that I read had links, and so I would click on the links, and the links would pop up, and they would have a definition on the same page. Like, it wouldn't take me away; it would just define on the same page, which was really great. So, like, when he brought up a person, I would know who he was talking about without having to go fishing on my own. It was already fished for me and served on a platter. And one of them, towards the beginning of the play, he compared himself to Elagabalus. The note reads, usually spelled Elagabalus, something different, Emperor of Rome from 218 to 222, who indulged in the wildest debaucheries. He was one of the most reviled Roman emperors to her early historians. Finally, his grandmother had him assassinated. What kind of human do you have to be to get murdered? And also, the main character of the story is comparing himself to this emperor. Ew. Later, there was a French phrase that did not have a link. So I ended up Googling it, and what I found, well, the answer in French, and so I will roughly translate for you because I'm not going to read it to you in French. The phrase, the good times of this iron era. It was from Voltaire's satire. It was extremely nostalgic for past times. It is interpreted as a reflection of the valor of that time, so the strength and those sorts of things. It is a sentiment of regret and admiration of ancientness, and it contrasts with the realism of what was happening at the time. This citation is a reflection of the human condition, effectively. And that is from the Library of America. And if you can read French, then you will probably make a lot more sense of it using all of the words. Okay, so I'm going to give you now a brief synopsis of the story, which is, it's a short story. So like, it didn't take me very long to read it. Even with hovering over all of the things and like learning more words while I was reading it. Not more words, but like more about the history, because Poe tends to sprinkle that all throughout. But there is a character, main character. His name is William. No. He says, you should call me William Wilson. That's what I should be known by. He's not going to tell you his real name. This is a nom de plume, if you will, of a storyteller. And he is writing down, he introduces this and he's like, I am going to die. I am in the process of doing the diet right now. And so I'm going to write all this down because, I mean, that's what I'm going to do. And you're like, all right, well, I'll follow along and find out why you were such a good human being for all of this time, and then something terrible happened that caused your ultimate demise very quickly, very instantly, very all in one moment. You died. But you were fine before that, not like just fine as in health, but like fine as in person as well. Your psychological self, your personality, you were just fine. Let's go on this journey and find out why you're dying. So then he starts from basically infancy. And he goes through and describes how he has such a strong and powerful will, so much so that people don't even they stop bothering to discipline him. When he's in school, he's basically running the place. They can't do anything about it. As he grows to maturity, he gets to be 15 years old. He goes off to this school, and he just kind of bulldozes his way in, breaks the rules, those sorts of things. Picks up terrible habits like gambling and drinking, encouraging others to have these sorts of behaviors. And he tells the story, and in this school, he has one person who doesn't just let him get away with everything, who doesn't just let him go. And this one person happens to have the exact same birth date that he does, and happens to look very much the same as him, and happens to have the exact same name. So here we are, William Wilson goes to a sleepaway school at age 15, meets another William Wilson, that's the name that we're going to call them because they're not going to tell their real names. And they like real stuff about themselves or something, I don't know. So he meets this real William Wilson, and this William Wilson not only